4, we're doing nutrients and building blocks. So we're going to just kick right into it. Again, if you've got any questions throughout, please type them in the box and I will cover them. And if there are any challenges specific to you during the last week, whether it be to do with anything that we've covered, journaling, your food, or not being hungry enough or being too hungry or anything like that. If you're doing the reset program, how you're doing on the reset, I can cover all those for you during the session, no problem. So starting off, we're going to cover protein. So please type in the box where you know you get protein from. Where is it that you know for sure I can get protein if I eat this thing? Please type in a few things. And whilst you're doing that, I'm going to cover this. So protein is a part of every cell in your body, and no other nutrient plays as many different roles in keeping you alive and healthy. The importance of protein for the growth and repair of your muscles, your bones, skin, tendons, ligaments, hair, eyes, and other tissues has long been proven. Without it, you would lack the enzymes and hormones you need for metabolism, digestion, and other important processes. So this means really that protein is critical to every single part of our bodies, to down into the cell. So every single cell requires protein, and you'll notice that almost every single food has a level of protein in it. Obviously, some are protein rich, and those are the ones I'm looking for when I identify. So we've got whey and meat. So dairy, meat, we've got eggs and fish as well. And that's all meat. So your fatty meats, your lean meats, your chicken and poultry, that sort of thing. So basically animal products, including dairy, eggs and fish for sure. Also tofu, if you're vegetarian, tofu is a rich form. Beans and legumes, so lentils and your chickpeas and all those kidney beans, all those sorts of things as well. You can also get a good level of protein from nuts, although for the specifics of this course, I use nuts and seeds as a fat source because they're much higher in fat content than protein, but it is something that you can add. And with whey as well, so if you're making protein shakes and things, whey protein isolate rather than concentrate is best. And soy or pea protein, potato protein, those sorts of vegan proteins as well are very good. But do look for something that is an isolate, so it doesn't have the other added ingredients, which can often be just used as fillers or sweeteners and so on. So if you're into that, your recipe book there does have recipes for making smoothies, especially if you're wanting them for the gym or just energy or something just to replace a meal for ease and convenience. You know, there's nothing wrong with having a whole lot of nutrients in a bottle, so long as it's something you've made yourself or you've seen someone make, so you know that it's not got preservatives and sugars and all those sorts of things in there. So do check out the recipe book there. Thank you for sharing. So kicking on again, so when you have an infection, you should eat more protein because it helps create the antibodies your immune system needs to fight disease. If you're injured, you may even need more to help your blood clot and make repairs. So consider for a moment as well, if you've ever been unwell, you've been sick, most of the time people don't want to eat a lot of, don't want to eat a big meal or something when they're not feeling well. They'll normally crave fruits and not acid tasting ones, so not too sharp, or ones that, for example, berries and so on can be quite sharp on the throat, and that can cause people distress. Same with like tomatoes and things like that have quite an acidy juice once eaten. So I noticed that people tend to want things like kiwi fruit, pineapple, citrus fruits as well, and which is interesting because I mean not a lemon, but more like mandarins and oranges and things that are sweet. And those things are really good on the stomach and have a lot of digestive enzymes as well, so they really help. And then what I notice as well is when people are on the mend, say if it's for example a flu, and I can speak from my own personal experience in the past before I came across USANA and was using the supplements, I would get sick often. And when I was on the mend, I knew I was getting there because I would crave some grains and fats, which I wouldn't want at all before when ill. So that's a really good thing as well, because if you're craving, say, for example, peanut butter on toast, such a simple thing, right? Peanut butter on toast, it's giving you those carbohydrates, it's giving you that fiber, and it's giving you the fats as well. And obviously more protein than you would get from, say, a mandarin. So yeah, it's interesting how the body will seek different different nutrients and different macros at different times. Into this again, your body can use protein for energy if it has to. However, it's best to eat plenty of carbohydrates for that purpose and save your protein for the important jobs other nutrients cannot do. So, because protein is the building blocks of your muscles and your organs, and this is what it uses to build. And you may know that because when it says in the next session, the next paragraph there about when you exercise, people know, well, I have a protein shake when I exercise, or I make sure I eat eggs or I eat a meaty meal or something because I've exercised really hard in the gym and I want to help my muscles grow. So it is true, it is the building blocks, and so it is a necessary part of our diet. It is not necessary, however, to consume obscene amounts of protein just because you're going to the gym. Um, what I find is people generally don't eat enough just day to day. However, there's no need to add too much excess um, whey powders and so on into your life. I think really people can get most of the protein that they need from their food. Obviously, if you're looking for a convenience option, I do recommend the Nutrimeal shakes because they have a balance of proteins, fats, carbs, and fiber, not just one of those ones from just the supermarket, which is high in protein but low in other nutrients and goodness. So, if you consider that the most intense period of growth in a human being's life is when they are a baby, and breast milk is 2% protein. So, you know, look at that as a guide. Um, and that's why a lot of foods, even your vegetables, a lot of them have tiny amounts of protein in them as well, because everything that you eat is going to assist your growth. Those that are vegetarian, it is not difficult to get a good amount of protein having a vegetarian diet. My husband and I are predominantly vegetarian. Well, actually, fully vegetarian. Every now and again, I will have a piece of fish, so I eat more animal products than he does. Um, and what I notice is that we're never not, we're not wasting away or anything like that. Certainly he works out a lot and he works a physical job as well, and there's no problem there in the protein. So it is a bit of a myth about being vegetarian and not getting enough protein. Okay, so when you exercise, especially when doing resistance training, so we talked a little bit about that in week 1, it is important to eat the correct amounts of protein for your body composition and activity level to be sure that your muscles will rebuild themselves and not have to consume themselves, because your muscles are your body's first source of protein in order to feed your fat burning engine. So much like the nutrients in, say, for example, calcium stored in your bones, if you do not consume enough calcium day to day in order for your bones to keep replenishing its stores, the body will leach from its own bones, from its own body, to use that calcium in other places where it's needed. So much the same with protein. If you do not consume enough over time, then your muscles will essentially be consumed and broken down for use elsewhere. The reason that the body can do this is that it is going to take from where we need it least and put it where we need it most. So obviously, to keep the brain functioning, to keep the heart pumping, and to keep organs doing its thing, that's most important. So if ever you were out there starving in the desert or something, your body would survive quite a long time simply by consuming itself and breaking down its own nutrients and own tissue and so on before um, you actually did die. So quite a long tangent on that one, but it's just to say that if you skipped a meal for a day, it's not going to be the end of the world. But do consider over my lifetime, am I getting enough nutrients in all of them? Am I getting enough carbohydrates to feed my brain because that's what it lives off of? Am I getting enough protein to rebuild my muscles? Because also every single year, your muscles atrophy. After you stop growing, so around age 20, 22, the body no longer builds muscle unless you are actively doing it, and instead um, loses about 500 grams a year, um, depending. Which is why, if I, for example, I have two grandmothers alive, and one of them is very active, and she has a good level of activity, good joint mobility. She can run around and do things. She's 82. My other grandmother is 85, and all she can do is sit and sit and sit all day. And she has very frail bones, very frail frame. She has almost no muscle mass on her. She eats like a sparrow. And the difference between the two is simply down to lifestyle. One eats still a small amount. I mean, both of them don't have huge appetites, but she eats a balanced diet. She gets out and she exercises, and she's always been that way. And my other grandmother, she eats maybe once a day, and that's by force. And um, you know, we'll have a cup of coffee and maybe a piece of toast if she had her own way, if we didn't force her to eat. And she doesn't move. And having gone through that sort of lifestyle for several years, let's say 15, 20 years, um, then her lifestyle has led to her being immobile effectively, and also she has very very brittle bones and often slips and breaks hips and ribs and all sorts of things. And it's just your what you do now and today is critical for your life. It really is. And it's never too late to change. I mean, I tried my best to get my grandmother to change, and I said, I will help you, and all you need to do is take that can of beans out of the cupboard and do a few, these sorts of things, squats by the pot while you're stirring and so on. But she just wouldn't have a bar of it. She's like, oh, I'm too old for that now. And it's like, 20 years ago she wasn't too old for it. She might now think that there's no way. So but it did give me motivation to make sure that I was an active and healthy grandmother when I get to that point. Okay, pick your protein carefully. So your body needs many different proteins for various purposes, and it makes them from about 20 building blocks called amino acids. 9 of these are essential amino acids, which means you must get them from food and/or proper supplementation. The others are non-essential. This does not mean that you do not need them, you simply do not have to eat them because your body can produce them on its own. Therefore, your body will create those other non-essential amino acids, but we do need to consume a variety of foods, and that's why all the colors on the plate is so important, so that we are not just eating one nutrient and not getting the other 8, for example. So what is your daily protein count? So week 1 and week 6. We didn't go over this in week 1, so this is something you can do at any point in time. But effectively, what I'm looking at is how much are you eating? So what I'd like you to do first is to go through your journal and just get a rough count of um, how many protein meals you've had in the day. You can just do one day if you like. One that's more of a typical day for you rather than just a random day. And go through each meal and circle the thing that is protein. So you've identified those animal products and beans and legumes and so on. And using the charts on, let's go to the next page here, page 30. Using these charts, just write down how many grams of protein you are getting per day. If you could do that now, if you have it with you now, and you could do it now, or even if you just do maybe dinner you've just eaten or lunch that you recall, and just come up with, how much you have consumed today or just in one of those meals, that would be really good just to share with the group. And I've even put in your protein powder up there, and it's obviously as a guesstimate. I mean, I'm assuming a serving here, and this shows your calorie intake as well. So, yeah, just put that down and see where you're at. How much protein do you get per day? And we will also talk about how you can figure out your own protein calculation per day. And it does depend if you are someone who is sedentary or someone who is very active. And if you are active just in terms of your work life, like my schedule is really active, or if you're actually someone who, does a lot of weight training, resistance training, it will definitely vary, and also age and so on. But I'll give you an easy to follow calculation, I suppose. So have a look through those charts. You'll also notice, just for future reference, in your recipe book, you've got a whole lot of protein sources. So desirable, least desirable, and moderately desirable. So we can go through, your all your fishes, especially your oily fish is great anyways for fats, but also really good protein source. Eggs, I do recommend free range eggs purely because you can get another 2 to 3 grams of protein out of a free range egg than a caged egg. And also consider that if you are eating eggs that come from healthy, happy chickens, it's really going to be so much more nutritious because they're not under stress. When an animal is under stress, then their whole systems turn into mush in a sense. I mean, they're not producing high quality products. So I really, for the extra 50 cents or whatever it is, go free range. Moderately desirable. So I've put your red meats and things in there. I don't recommend eating red meat for every meal. It's very, very acidic. And as we get into the alkaline acidity section later on, you'll know that eating too much acid is really detrimental to your health. So if you can keep red meat and so on up to no more than really 3 or 4 days a week, that's kind of the maximum I would recommend. And keeping it, having lean cuts instead of fatty meats. I do recommend introducing vegetarian days into your week, especially if you're not used to vegetarianism, then, expand your horizons somewhat. Not only is it good for your health, but it's also good for the environment if we can all at least have 1 or 2 days a week that are vegetarian. So it just saves on, yeah, a whole lot of things. So I've got there as well skim milk. You've got shrimp and other seafoods and things as well are quite good for protein. In terms of, say, for example, if you had a chicken breast, you might get around 20 grams of protein in a regular 120, 150 gram chicken breast. To get the same amount from shrimps or prawns, you'd probably need about 10 of those, fairly decent sized shrimps to get the same amount. So if you're looking at these are your sources, but going back to your workbook, that's where you get the actual grams. So Jackie, you've got about 44 grams of protein a day. That's pretty good, really. Knowing what a lot of people out there consume. So, and also I know Jackie, and I know her build, and I know her activity levels, and that's not far off. You really want to look at, as a rule of thumb, if you're getting around, say, between 10 and say 25 grams of protein per meal, not snack, per meal, then you're onto a good thing. The Nutri-Meals, for example, give 15 grams of protein. You're not going to absorb more than 30 grams per meal, like in one go. Like your body just will not synthesize that much protein in one hit. So eating, oodles and oodles of whey or eggs or whatever into your smoothies to get the amount of protein is not really gonna help you. But having 20 grams of protein a go is pretty good. So most people I find if they can calculate just using their lean body mass which is why I got you to do those calculations early in the piece, so right at the beginning of your workbook. Using those, you can take your lean body mass, and from that amount, you can decipher what your. Actually, let me write this out for you. Let's create a whiteboard. So take your lean body mass. So that will be when you have your fat versus your muscle percentage. Basically, your lean body mass is going to be the lean muscle. So if you've gone and had your measurements done, then using a skin fold caliper or one of those weights machines the scale that has the ability to tell you how much each individual part of you is, then your lean body mass is the number that we're looking for. So you take that, and you want to, if your calculation is in pounds, so if it's in pounds, then leave it as it is. If it's in kilos, then you want to take the kg amount and multiply it by 2.2, and that's how you get pounds. Let me just put that there. So you do that, and then you multiply that number by an activity multiplier. So the activity multiplier is simply how much activity you do in your day. So let's say you do light activity. Light activity is going to be multiplied by 0.5. Moderate, and to understand what light and moderate is, I mean, if you're sedentary, I probably wouldn't multiply it by anything at all. But if you move about a little bit in your day, you probably walk around and, or stand, then, it's quite light. Moderate is you probably get out purposefully, you're conscious about having activity and you'll actually get out and move on purpose, consciously. Then you're on a 0.6. I'd say harder than, or let's say rather high, because there's high and then there's super high. 0.7, it's pretty easy. And intense, I guess. Intense, you're looking at, I mean, high, you're in a daily regime. Intense, you're probably doing sports training. You also go to the gym. You do resistance work, so using weights. You also do hills, and then you're probably looking at a 0.8 to a 0.9. That depends on how intense. Most people, I find, if they're gym bunnies, I put them at a 0.7. But generally, if you're not someone who's purposefully active, then you can go for a moderate activity level. So this is something that you justify for yourself. It doesn't really matter. It's not going to, if you did moderate and high and you were like, oh, well, I was actually a moderate, I should have been a high, then it's not it's not the end of the world. What I often ask people to do is, say, for example, on the weekends, I'm more active than I am when I'm at work, for example, and I might do weekdays, I'll eat light, and weekends, I'll have an intense protein hit. And you will actually know, because if you've ever gone and done, say, a 3-hour hike, you're really, really hungry and you want things that fill you, and it's not just quick carbs to give you energy, it's actually you need that, that replenishment. You feel your muscles are aching and need some assistance. So your body will tell you if you're quite attuned to it. So simply take your lean body mass, convert it to pounds, and then multiply by the multiplier that suits you, and then you get your grams. Oops, grams of protein per day. So say for example, mine came out with 75 is the number, then that's my grams of protein I need to consume per day. And it's just a guide. It's really a guide. I mean, if you went and had, well, I'm just going to have protein in every meal. I'm just going to make sure I have protein in every meal, and that's the bare minimum that you do. It's already excellent, given that people often don't even consider, do I even have protein in my meal? So if you're eating often from things that are included in this list, then don't be too concerned. You will be getting protein and you'll probably be getting enough if you're not too hungry. Any questions about that, please do indicate in the box. All right. So, scientific studies. We're going to move on now to some science about cellular nutrition. So, this isn't the biggest part. We're going to be getting more in depth into cellular nutrition next week, but we will go into it lightly today. So cellular nutrition is so important to both your weight loss and your long-term optimal health. The American Medical Association is now urging everyone to take a multivitamin to prevent chronic disease thanks to the massive amount of new research. And the thing is about this research, it is just growing and growing and growing. And that's why there is such a huge booming industry for health and wellness and supplementation and so on. Nobel Prize winner Dr. Linus Pauling found the death rate for women who took vitamins was something percent lower than for non-vitamin users. Does anyone know what that something something is? You know, a percent. Hazard a guess. If you're taking a vitamin, what percent higher than women who don't take a vitamin um, is your likelihood for long life? Any takers? Hazard a guess. It is dun, 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 40%. So 40%. Can you believe it? Just from taking a multivitamin, a good one, probably. I find that astounding. Astounding. It just goes to show that the nutrient quality of our food has just deteriorated so much. It's probably gone down by 50% in the last 50 years, which is saying a lot. And here in New Zealand, it will be different in different parts of the world, but here in New Zealand, we have very low iron, very low selenium, well, no selenium in our soil, very low zinc as well. So, these are things that we really, really need. And if we're not getting them in our soil, then we're not getting it in our food that's being grown. So it is really, really important. Next there, 250 micrograms of vitamin C is shown to reduce deaths from heart disease by 42%. Vitamin C, that's one of the many nutrients. So yeah, it's worth knowing about. 200 micrograms of, so that vitamin C was milligrams. So 200 micrograms of chelated selenium has been shown to reduce cancer deaths by, anyone? I'm looking at the list, thinking you might write some. No, 50%. Selenium, which we do not have in New Zealand soil. So unless you are a Brazil nut growing queen, selenium, we need to have this. We need this. That is why the other thing about selenium, for example, if you ever owned a horse, then you would have, like, you would know that the what are they called? The salt licks. The salt licks that we have in well, at least here in New Zealand, is rich in selenium. It's rich in nutrients. It's all of these things that we don't have in our food. Like, to me, that makes me go, well, we treat our animals far better than we treat ourselves, and it just makes me a little bit irate when I know that, I mean, I think the horses are great, but I also think my children and nephews and all of them are in more need of these nutrients. A question there about what is chelation. So chelation, it is sometimes chelation in other countries. So it's about the way that ions and molecules bind ions together. So it's basically about how if something is chelated, then it's kind of like completed a process where it's bound together, therefore it's going to be better absorbed. That's probably the easiest way that I can explain it. I should probably get you a little diagram and and show that, which I will do, because I think that's probably easier to understand. I'm certainly a visual person. Um, right, so what else we got there? 400 international units of vitamin E, very powerful antioxidant vitamin E, has been shown to reduce heart attack deaths by 77%. 77%. The number of people in this country having heart attacks, honestly, it's like 1 in 3 or 2 in 3 having heart attacks. And I mean, I know in this year alone, 3 people in my circle that have had a heart attack. Obviously not young people, which is good to know. They are older, but it does make me concerned. How much food do we need to eat daily to get 400 international units of vitamin E? Anyone got an idea? 400 international units. It's quite astounding. You would have to eat 74 cups of spinach or 3 cups of almonds. I mean, it's just obscene numbers. Like I couldn't even consume that amount, even if I were juicing it every day. And it's a lot. It's a lot. And that's vitamin E only that we're talking about there. According to most recent studies conducted by the Ministry of Health in New Zealand, which was December 2013 when this was taken, 65% of Kiwis are obese or overweight and are facing a poor quality life as obesity-related diseases such as heart attack, stroke, cancer, and diabetes are on the rise. The other thing is that, we're looking also at children. Children in this country, it's been shown that 1 in 3 are getting what's known as early onset adult diabetes. So it's quite scary and this is all because of the nutrient quality of our food and also the way that we're educating our children on how to eat. What is one common cause of most all of today's diseases? I'm going to ask the group, what do you think is one common cause of most of today's diseases? Anyone? Kelly, I know that you know. Any ideas? All right, I'm going to answer for you. So inflammation, simply. Common cause. We're talking about the cause here. So inflammation, simply. So as I mentioned earlier about when we were talking about acid and alkaline, so acid is inflammation forming, it's it's not helping to um, rid us of inflammation or disease. It's actually enhancing it and making things more inflammatory. So if you've got a bad back, then I advise steering away from sugar and maybe having some greens or something like that. So inflammation is what causes disease if you go to the root. We're going to move now to describe the 3 things which set apart pharmaceutical manufacturing from food quality GMPs. GMPs here stands for, anyone? Good manufacturing practices. So pharmaceutical versus food quality. So food quality, as I said in New Zealand, is very, very poor quality in that there are no regulatory standards. I wrote to the Ministry of Health last year in October, and they were very honest with me in sharing that they do not regulate. They just ask the sponsor of the product to ensure that it's safe for consumption and that there is a minimal amount of whatever it is in there. So when you go to the supermarket or you go to the health store and you see this bargain bin supplement for sale, be very, very careful what you buy. An easy way to look at what what's inside and whether or not it's good for you and it's going to actually serve you is to look for a book called The Comparative Guide to Nutritional Supplements. So I'm going to write that up here as well. Dun, dun, dun. The Comparative Guide to Nutritional Supplements. It's awfully big, isn't it? Yeah. Yeah, the reason I say use this book is because this this will tell you exactly what should be in the supplement. So I'm just going to change that to a little bit too small, or too big and small. So this was written by Lyle McWilliam, who was commissioned by the Ministry of Health in Canada to get a team together and write out what they believed was the optimal supplement, multivitamin. So not just one nutrient, but actually a standard multi. And he got a team of 12 scientists, nutritionists, dietitians together, all from different places. So it's not brand specific or company specific or anything. They're all from different places. And they created what's now known as the International Blenders Standard. And this standard really lists the optimal and the upper limits of all the nutrients that you can that we need basically to maintain a healthy body. And what's interesting about this is then this blended standard is used to compare nutrients in different supplement brands all over the world. The booklet for New Zealand and Australia it compares 250 different supplements, and it's interesting because you kind of look at all these top brands that we hear of, being blasted on the airwaves, and things that I myself have taken and believed in because of the advertising. And it's amazing how far advertising can take us. And they're very, very poor quality, very poor quality. And the reason they are, and I can go back to this, is looking at potency. So potency is how how pure and strong it is, really. Like, the potency of it is, if it says it's 1,000 milligrams, then it better be 1,000 milligrams of that nutrient. What the Ministry of Health was telling me was that they do not regulate how much of the nutrient is actually in the tablet, in the bottle. So for me, I want to know, when I'm buying something, that what it says on the label is actually in the bottle every single time. That's, having faith in my nutritionals. The purity of it, obviously, meaning it's got no parabens, no pesticides, no herbicides, no chemicals, no synthetic things, this sort of thing. No heavy metals, all that sort of stuff that can creep in depending on the product, obviously. So purity, you're looking at, it is purely what it says on the label again. In dissolution, this is about the bioavailability to the body, how quickly it is absorbed and carried around the body. So we're looking at, for example, how quickly a tablet will dissolve. That is simple dissolution. Does it take 20 minutes, or does it take 3 hours, or does it not dissolve at all? I mean, some tablets, you can put them in water and they will never break down. You just watch it and you think, well, what's in that? You know? The gap, fill in the gap here, so you can write in your own booklet, just your own versions of that for understanding. And here the number is 250. So the Comparative Guide to Nutritional Supplements, the scientist author compared 250 Australian and New Zealand multivitamins. He compared them for quality, safety, and completeness according to the recommendations of 12 leading nutrition experts. All right, what are the RDAs? Does anyone know what RDA stands for? Any idea? Thanks, Kelly. Yeah, that's right. So recommended daily allowances. Now, the recommended daily allowances have not been updated since like the 50s or something, or probably earlier than that. The RDAs really are the bare minimum that a human being will need in terms of nutrients in order to not get scurvy or rickets, which is basically, you know, to keep yourself alive and functioning. So it's not really a very good guide for rearing healthy children, for example. We're looking at, that's why this comparative guide is so important. I mean, it's such a great wee booklet. It's it's brilliant because it's easy reference. But what I like about it as well is we're talking about more than RDA level. We're talking about your optimal levels. For me, I noticed, I wasn't getting I was getting more than the RDAs, obviously, because I ate healthy food. I ate a lot of good nutritious food. But knowing that it's not as nutritionally dense as it once was, um, the difference I noticed in my health and the improvement over time in my immune system and so on since taking a high quality nutritional supplement is just beyond my comprehension before. I can't really go back. I don't want to go back. It's changed my energy levels. It's changed the way I heal very, very quickly now. I heal very quickly from injury. If I get sunburnt or a scratch or something, I just heal a lot faster. Um, it, I mean, there's so many things I could ribbit on all night about this, but basically, recommended daily allowance, not enough, not enough. Even the optimal levels on the products that I take myself is still, I could probably double, treble, and some of them 20 times. I could take 20 times more. And that's why this booklet's so great because it says the upper limit, so the maximum you could take in a day as well. And if you wanted to be, if I were an athlete, I would probably take that around the upper limits. So I hope you've got all of those answers there. If you do not, please let me know. Right, essentials. So some of you have been doing the reset program, and I congratulate you on that. If you are wondering what supplements I do recommend, then these are it, especially in this country. I know around the world there are multiple companies that adhere to the same GMPs and so on as this company USANA, but in this country there is nothing. There's nothing that comes even close. You look at that book and you'll see the quality of what's out there. It's quite staggering. So the Essentials is our flagship product. It is a broad spectrum minerals, vitamins, and antioxidants. And this is what you would need in an average daily diet if you look at this image, if you were to eat it in food. So you'd have to consume about 70 New Zealand dollars a day worth of product, and you're looking at, say, look, 44 eggs, 80 bananas, 18 and a half oranges, 7 clams. Who ever eats clams? I don't think I've ever had a clam. Um, but what I'm saying is, you can't consume that amount of food just to get the right amount of vitamin D, your vitamin B12, B6. You just couldn't get it, by consuming all of this food. It's staggering. So, and this is probably about, to eat that amount of food per day, per day you'd be having a week's worth of calories. It's like 18,000 calories. It's just obscene. So supplementation, do you understand it for what it is? It is a supplement. It is to have, in addition to a healthy diet. Food comes first. Make sure you're eating all the colors. Make sure you've got a variety of different things on your plate, and you do try new things. Try some of the recipes. You've got to have variety, but also you cannot, just like you can't out train a bad diet, you also um just take a supplement and eat rubbish, because it's just, this is nutrients, yes, but it's not going to help with insulin spikes and that whole low GI thing we covered last week. Yeah, it's really, really important. So, but again, the essentials are just phenomenal. There is an amazing team of scientists behind this, and the man who invented USANA, which is Greek and Latin for true health, is just a phenomenal man. He is a philanthropist. He is a gift to humanity. He has given so much to this world via the scientific community, and he's just a marvel. And the fact that he's created a supplement line that really is actually transforming people's health it's amazing, and I'm very, very happy to have found it. Oops, so we're going to move a little now on to shopping. So, oh, Jackie, you've put frozen there. Do you mean about the fish oils? So I'm assuming that's what you mean. So fish oils, an easy way to test your fish oils is to chuck them in the freezer. And if they freeze into little bullets, then you can guarantee they've probably got, oh right, the screen was frozen. Oh, well, I'm taking your thing to mean frozen about the fish oils. So chuck them in the freezer. And if they turn into wee bullets, then in the oil inside the freezer, then chances are there is something else in there other than fish oil, because the fish oil itself shouldn't freeze. Obviously, if you left anything in a deep freeze for a long enough time, it probably would get there, but generally speaking, it shouldn't. It shouldn't freeze your oil. So, shopping now. So, we're looking at nutrient levels in food. So, the nutrition panel, the NIP on the back of the food product is going to give you all you need to know about, well, provided it's a detailed list. Certainly in this country, we need quite detailed lists. So it enables you to make healthy food choices by comparing the nutrition information of different food products. Sometimes it has a vitamin and mineral content. So MEF Food Safety, which is the Ministry of Agriculture and Forestry, the Environmental Science and Research Department, they carry out testing on vitamin and mineral levels in fortified foods and compare the survey results with levels claimed on the labels, which is kind of like a random testing type thing as well. Even though there is no minimum regulation of supplements, they do this for food. So the level stated on the label is calculated as the average amount generally expected to be in the food when consumed over a reasonable period of time. So what needs to be on the food label? Nearly every food product requires a label. Generally, a food label includes the name of the food, the supplier, warning statements such as allergens, so you'll often note soy, wheat, dairy, nuts, that sort of thing. The ingredient list, a date mark, directions for use, weight, and a nutrition information panel. So there's a lot of different dates. I do go into that as well, but let's just look at what's the easiest way. So when you're comparing two different foods, say you've got two cereal boxes, you want to look at the 100-gram column for both, because you can't compare when one says per serving is 75 grams and this per serving is 2 cups. Like, it's very, very difficult to compare. So always use the 100 or the 100 mils or 100 grams, whatever it is. When you're looking at, say, the same two different products, say chili sauce, for example, and you're wanting to know about, say, sugar content, then you want to be looking at the ingredients, but also at the 100-gram thing there. If you're wanting to know the glycemic load, as for last week, the glycemic load of your food, then you want to use the per serving column, because that's the amount of food you're going to eat in that session, in that meal. Okay. Nutrition claims. So phytoestrogens and all these sorts of things need to be labeled as well. Whatever claim they can make about the food, it has this or that, it has to be very clear. If there's a claim about the calcium content, it must show the average level present, for example. Date marks and storage, that has to be on there. They do need an expiry date. They do. It's part of the law here. Here is a difference. So use by is if you keep it safe and you follow the instructions, then consume the food by the use by date. And they cannot sell an expired use by date product. So best before is, it's going to be, maybe the integrity of the product will change after that, but they guarantee before then it's going to be the best before. They can still sell it after that time, maybe at a reduced price. And baked on or baked for are those, when you go to the supermarket and you've got the products that they bake in-house, it's normally a very, very short, so less than 7 days short shelf life. No preservatives generally in there. here's some labels. You can go through this yourself, but basically, you've got everything, your basic list there. Trans fats do need to be listed in this country. Anything less than 0.2% is considered zero value, so do be mindful. But you'd be looking, say, for example, in the 100-gram saturated fat. It often does list, and I think one of the other labels here does list. What have we got? Different fats. So, oh no, this one doesn't either. But some of them will list all 4 kinds of fats. So your saturated, your total fat, then your saturated, monounsaturated, polyunsaturated, and trans fat as well. So at least you're getting an overall picture as well as which, if you're looking, well, I want to make sure I've got more omega-3s, my my polyunsaturated, then you want to look for that and look in that column. So I've put these 2 different labels in here as well, so that you can look more in depth. When looking at ingredients lists, do know that they're listed in order of the amount. So the first thing on the list, that's the highest amount that's in there. So be mindful when you read something and it says water is the first one and it's supposed to be a 100% coconut extract and it's mainly water, then maybe you put that one back. Sugar. When you're looking at sugar, anything as a guide, for example, let's go through this. So we've got milk, continuous milk, solids. So you've got some fruit sugar there. Modified starch, there'll be some there. Fructose, these O's, O-S-E, anything that's got a suffix there of O's is sugar. Look at this, it's got all these numbers as well, colors, flavors, sweeteners, another sugar, lactase, another one, preservatives there as well. Yeah, I mean, this is Nestle strawberry low-fat fruit yogurt. I mean, yeah, please don't buy that. Doesn't look good. Just on this page as well, this low glycemic certified label, which I mentioned earlier, is guaranteed. It's been tested. You can eat it. Follow the instructions for the serving size, and it's going to be in the low glycemic range. You can easily then calculate your glycemic load. Generally, I've found, for example, in the recipe book, that you've got those lists and it says what the glycemic load is as well. But also, ones that have this label on it, I find actually not only are they low glycemic, but their serving size is also low glycemic load. So that's really important as well. In the back of the book, the workbook, if you're interested to read up beforehand, there are appendices on sugars. So let me just flip down to that because we're not going to go a lot of detail into sugars, but I do have at the end. I can just find it for you. So the truth about sugar and artificial sweeteners. So do read this. Do read this information. It's amazing the number of sweeteners we have now. It's just it's phenomenal. Sweeteners. Look, if I were to say which is best, go for sugar. At least your brain knows what it is, and your body can break it down. Be very mindful of a diet this or a diet that because you just don't know what's in there. And if it's got any of these names on the lists here, then please don't have it, especially this one. Aspartame, do not have that one. It is just terrible. It's yeah, it can really cause some major problems yeah, in the brain. So be very careful if you see that in a product. Do not eat it. Oh look, there you go. Studies over a 22-year period concluded in late 2012. They show that aspartame has been linked to lymphoma and leukemia in both men and women. That's really not cool. It's in, oh yeah, 951 is in Diet Pepsi. There you go. Thanks very much, Jackie. So lovely. Yeah. There's a little booklet called Sweet Poison, I think, that talks about sugars and so on. And there's another wee one. What's it called? It's where it's like a little tiny little guidebook, and you can get it in just in your regular bookstore, and it has all of the e numbers and all of these things coded, and you can see what each of them are and what it's in and what to have. So yeah, it's interesting to talk about Diet Pepsi. So my brother just said that he cleaned his chairs, the rust off of his chairs using Coca-Cola, and his friend had used it to clean his bumper from his car. So the chemical maze, I think that's it. Kelly, thank you so much. The chemical maze, and they have an app, which is even more handy. Yeah, so using drinks, fizzy drinks to clean rust off of things, it's not really ideal that we drink it, is it? I don't think so. Okay, so that's us for the day. So you've now got your food journals, and you'll be able to start putting in their protein. So you've got your low glycemic carbohydrates, your proteins, and you've already covered a little bit on fats there. So put in there what we're going to go next week, lot more in detail, fats and fiber week 5, but you've already got an idea. So do fill in your journals, and also down the bottom exercise level, because then if you put intense or moderate or whatever, then that's an easy way for you to do your calculations on your protein intake. Are there any questions about what we've covered today? Any questions at all, please do ask. If there are no questions, your task for the week is to go out there, use your food labeling prowess, and read some labels and understand, and maybe make some food choices that are different. And if you do make some, please do share them next week in the group. It'd be wonderful to see what new enlightening things you've chosen to buy instead of. Thanks everyone for being here tonight. It's wonderful to have you, and we'll see you next week, week 5, 2 weeks to go for fats and fiber. Thanks everyone.